You don't nullify something that's tamei. Everything becomes tamei. It like spreads into the whole thing. So I'm making up this logic, but maybe we could. This is what's the Gemara thinking? If it would have only said one, then I would have thought that maybe chulin cannot nullify kachim. Everything becomes kodesh. It just touches it and it becomes mixed in. The whole thing becomes kodesh. Doesn't have the power. That's what I could have thought. So therefore, we need two cases, according to Abaya, to teach me that chulin could nullify kachim, and kachim could nullify kachim.
Depends which one has more percentage.
No, well, we're talking about that they would both have just the amount to give a flavor, but I could have thought if it didn't say both rules, I could have thought that it only applies to one, only applies to either the mundane or it applies to kachim. Okay, the rules of bittul. Rakik shigia barakik. Let's say one wafer touched another wafer, or a piece of meat touched another piece of meat. So we said that only that only that part that touched becomes sanctified or puzzle or whatever, but not the whole thing. Tana Rabbanan. The rabbis taught kol sheyiga. Anything that touches its flesh. The pasuk says anything that touches its flesh becomes sanctified. That's the verse. Yachal afilu shlei bala. Maybe even if it doesn't absorb, maybe it should also be sanctified. Tamalayma bibsara, in its flesh. That means that it needs to be absorbed. Sheyibala bibsara. Until it gets absorbed into the flesh. It's an interesting Rashi here. Rashi says when it comes to the laws of mixtures, kosher and non-kosher or sanctified, there's several things that we're dealing with. You could be dealing with the substance itself. Two substances mix. Let's say you have three things here. Let's say, right? We don't know which one is the. This all types of issues. Then you can have that this fell into there and I took it out and it left some sort of flavor in there. That's called tam kicker. The flavor was in there. Then you can have that you're looking if you had a shear of the isser. Did you have a shear? And you ate the mixture together. Does the permissible part that's part of this add to the shear of eating what's forbidden? That's called heter mitzdaref l'isser. Does the permissible part create a shear? Shear usually when forbidden foods is kazayas. Does the heter add to the shear, to the measurement that would be the amount that would make a person liable? So Rashi says that this is teaching me here the din of heter mitzdaref l'isser.
That means the heter becomes like the Isra.
Yeah, and he says, this is not a tam ki'ikr thing. Shein ze tam, because this is a real absorption. There's a machlekes Rashi and Tosfos regarding what tam ki'ikr is. When the flavor gets absorbed, does it mean the flavor with substance, or does it just pure flavor and you remove the substance? Okay, when you learn.
So what's that in a practical, in a food? What is that? How?
I'll tell you. You want to know how it plays out? But the way it plays out is like this: that it depends how you learn it. Certain things, let's say things that are forbidden to have pleasure, to have pleasure from. For example, basar b'chalav. If it's a din in basar b'chalav, it says le'yivashal or le'savashal b'li b'chali, then it would be forbidden to have pleasure from. But if it's a din in heter mitzdaref l'isser that I take from this and I put it over there, and the question is the size, and it's not a din in tam ki'ikr and all of that, then it could be I can have benefit from it because it takes on another law, a new type of law of heter mitzdaref l'isser or whatever. It takes on a new type of law, then it would only have the forbidden aspect of eating it, and not the benefit. So it can switch around. Things switch with just different types of mixtures and what law I'm learning it from. Okay. Yachal naga b'miktas chaticha yekul lepasel. Maybe if it touches just one edge, a drop of the piece, these two things touch, so the whole thing becomes pasel. Talmud Leimer yiga. It says touching, what it will touch. Hanegea pasel.
I think it looks like it's depend if it's cold or hot or if you have juice
Right.
to it or not. I mean,
Right.
It's depend on all those issues
Right.
to make sure if it's the whole piece or just part of the piece.
Right. So why would the Gemara think differently? Maybe the Gemara thought, like when we discussed cooking in an oven, we said that even if it doesn't touch the side of the oven, we thought that maybe it will, the whole
thing.
oven would
Yes.
need to be broken. We had that Gemara before.
Yes.
So it could be just the fact that it touched, the whole thing becomes sanctified. Right?
That's what I think that's what the Gemara now try to get to conclusion.
So the Gemara concludes like you're saying. Again, you and the Gemara.
That's what I said next to the rabbi. Perez.
Okay,
Next-
Tzad. How
Next
does
week
this-
you are here, Perez.
You know, in the yeshivas, when they would say, when you think of what the Gemara thought,
Yeah.
so you say, Baruch Shekivanti.
Yeah.
That means, blessed is Hashem that He gave me the idea that I could think the same way the Gemara thinks. Okay, Tzad, how does this work?
It's
Shekivanti, that I intended.
Kavanah.
I intended to the same thing. that the
Kavanah,
Gemara-
yeah. Okay.
רוח הקודש נתנה לשוטים.
How does this work? You have to cut off only that part, like you said, that where it got absorbed, but not the entire thing becomes sanctified. Bibisara, when it says in the verse, in its flesh, doesn't that means that if a piece of meat of a sacrifice touches the gid or the sinews, the bones, the horns, or the hoofs, it does not become sanctified. Only if it touches the flesh. Yikdash, it becomes sanctified. Liyas kamaya, to be exactly like it. Ha ketzad, how does this work? Impsula, if the sacrifice, the initial sacrifice that touched the other thing, was invalid, impsulahi tifsal, then the next thing that it touched also becomes invalid. Bim ksheirahi, and if it is valid, then you would have to eat it with the strictness of whichever one is more stricter. The Gemara asks, why should we say that it becomes invalid just because it gets touched by something else, and now we're not going to be able to eat it? Neisei yasei, let the positive command of to eat the sacrifice should come along, v'lidchias leisasei, and it should push off the negative prohibition of eating something that's invalid. So it's asking it could be a general question, that if I have a mitzvah to eat it because it's a sacrifice, and you have a negative prohibition, do not eat it because it became invalid, lo yachal ki kodesh. So we have a rule that if we have a positive commandment and a negative commandment together, the positive pushes off the negative. Positive is stronger. Where do we see that? By tzitzis.
Yeah.
By tzitzis. It says that you should not make shatnez. But nevertheless, if you would have the proper tzitzis with cheles and all of that, you would be allowed to make wool tzitzis on a linen garment, even though that's shatnez.
Only if it has tchelis?
Yeah. If it was done, so you would be allowed to do that. So we see that's why, because the positive command you should put on tzitzis overrules the negative command of you shall not have. So here the Gemara's question is, you have a positive command to eat the sacrifice, you have a negative command, don't eat it if it's invalid. So let the positive command push off the negative command. Amarava, eina sei doiches leisasei shebemikdash. A positive command does not push off a negative command in the temple. He has a proof. This proof is that by the Korban Pesach, it says.
Why in the temple? Why is it?
Yeah, but we bring sacrifices on Shabbos. What are you talking about? There's a negative command not to make a fire on Shabbos, and they made a fire every Shabbos in the Beis Hamikdash.
Yeah, that could be because of the time. That could be a special case because of the time restraint of it. That it has a specific time that it needed to be brought even on Shabbos. But here, this was not like a time thing that. So we have the proof that he's bringing is that it says that. Let me finish. Reb Shimon ben Menashe says, "Echad etzem sheyesh b'mayach." Whether it's on the Korban Pesach, you're not allowed to break a bone.
So
Shimon ben Menashe says whether the bone has marrow.
Why bring it now from Pesach? I mean,
You'll see. Echad etzem sheyesh b'mayach. Whether the bone does not have marrow, you're not allowed to break the bone. And he asks, "Amai nesi yasei b'lidches leisasei." You have a positive command to eat the marrow. You have a negative command not to break the bone to get the marrow out. Let the positive command push off the negative command, break the bone, and take the marrow. So it must be, you follow? It must be that you can't push off a negative command in the temple just because you have a positive command.
in the temple, but out
the
of
temple.
it you can.
Right?
Why because the temple?
It's the holy place.
I guess the proof that we have that a positive command pushes off a negative command is not from temple sacrifices. It could be the rules are different there.
Why would they be different? I mean, that's his question.
Yeah. Well, we have a precedent that it's different, but why?
Thank you, lawyer.
You a lawyer?
Thank you,
He's
Mr.
I'm his
In
client.
training.
That's the best. Yeah. Okay. The logic for that, I'm not sure. Ravashi has his own answer. Yikdash. Yikdash means that it becomes sanctified. Asehu. The verse that we were quoting before was Yikdash, that anything that touches something else becomes sanctified. We were also using another verse that says, Lo yeyachal ki koideshu, it shall not be eaten because it's sanctified. That was referring to something that became puzzle. Ravashi says the fact that it says Yikdash is that it becomes sanctified. That term is also a positive term, and ve'enasei doichas loisasei va'asei. That term itself makes it into a positive command, and so therefore a positive command of you shall eat it will not push off a negative and a positive, which is you shall not eat it, and it becomes sanctified. It shall not be eaten. That it's viewing that as a positive. Okay, Ashkechan chatas the miskadish bebelua sharkach minalan. We find that a korban chatas that touches another chatas will sanctify what it touches. How do we know that this applies to other sacrifices as well? Okay, so we start over here, a nice piece of Gemara, easy piece of Gemara, that just goes through one pasuk and explains each word of the pasuk, what it's coming to teach us. So Amar Shmuel Mishum Rabbi Lazar, Zeis HaTorah, bring quotes a pasuk, La'oila, this is the law of an oila, a mincha, a chatas, a asham, miluim, a zevach hashlamim. Now we go back and we explain the pasuk. All of these are types of sacrifices. We're trying to say that all sacrifices are going to be the same as each one of these. La'oila. When we said that this is the law of the oila, it says ki oila, just like an oila. Ma oila tuna keli. Just like the oila needs a vessel. Afkol tuna keli. Also, all sacrifices need a vessel. My keli. What does it mean, a keli, that it needs a vessel? Ilema mizrak, that it needs a vessel to receive the blood. I know this from the communal sacrifices. Moshe took the half of the blood and he put it into this vessel, aganis for the vessels. Ella, rather, what does it mean that it needs a vessel by the oila? It means a sakin. It means that you need a knife to do the shechita with, and as opposed to maybe cutting with some other utensil. How do we know that the oila requires a knife? Where do you know that from? The ksiv, Avram stretched out his hand and he took the machelas, which is a knife. And over there it was an oila. The ksiv, and he brought the ram as a oila in place of his son. Okay, so from oila we learn that you need a knife. Mincha, what do we learn from the next word of the verse? It says mincha. Ma mincha nechelas el zichrikuna. Just like a korban mincha is only eaten by male kayanim, afkal, also all sacrifices in nachalim zichrikuna are only all sacrifices kachim are only eaten by male kayanim. Maihi.
So mincha is a kachri kalim or kachri kedoshim?
Mincha is kachi kachi. Hello, Zichri Kuna. Maihi means which sacrifices are we learning from the Zichri Kuna? Ichatas v'asham. Are we learning that a chatas and asham are only eaten by kayanim behedik sivbuhu? For them, I don't need to learn from a carbon mincha. Kol zachar b'kayanim yechlenu. All male kayanim can eat it. It says by the chatas and asham. Vishal mitzibur. And if it's from the communal sacrifice, miribuya dekraasi, that I know from a extra pasuk. Over there it says, "B'kodesh hakadashim teichlenu kol zachar yochel I say." Every male should eat it, and it says "B'kodesh hakadashim," referring to the communal sacrifices. Liman al shal b'tzibur shein nachal mazichr kuna. This teaches me that the communal sacrifices are eaten by male kainim, so you don't need the mincha to teach me this. The Gemara says Tanaihi. Actually, this is a machlekes Tanaim. Ikad denafkala mahacha, v'ikad denafkala mehacha. Some learn it from here, and some learn it from here. Okay. Gemara just continues with this.
How far behind are we now?
We're up to date.
Up to date,
We're a line ahead.
Rabbi,
Yes.
tomorrow you have to sit here, parents.